Oh, I have another one over here.
All right, thank you.
Actually, we talked a lot. Thank you so much, guys. It's awesome. But you've talked a lot about recruiting A players, how you can attract them and all that good stuff. But if you're somebody who is really interested in getting involved with startups and you want to present yourself as an A player and you want to be found or you want to go seeking an employer, what are some suggestions you can give to people to either it's as basic as their resume or as basic as networking? What are some suggestions you can provide to people who are looking to kind of put themselves on display, so to speak?
Specifically for startup? I mean, a lot of the people that I meet and a lot of people that end up working at Unflick are people that I've met in passing. And so, you know, we do different startup recruiting events and those sorts of things. You know, sometimes it involves lots of beer and lots of poutine, but it's a really casual environment. And I think that's who we are. And to hide behind something else more formal is just, it's misrepresentation. So for us, you know, everywhere I go, I'm on the lookout for a superstar. You never know where you might be. When I go to networking events, I'm not looking to network with HR people, no offense, but I know a lot of HR people, and I'm constantly meeting them at regular events where I'm trying to further myself on a professional development perspective. But when I go to like a networking event, I'm looking for the next superstar, and I'm looking to connect with different people who might know somebody else who's looking. So, you know, one of the things that I find that's really common among people who work in startup is that they're really passionate. They're passionate about what they do, and it's passion that they can't exude anywhere else because they have to be put in this box and shh, you know, no, that's not your role. And so a lot of the time when I get talking with someone, you know, I'll know right away that they're a good fit for startups. And, you know, talking about, you know, where have you worked in the past, and what have you been involved in? And you get a sense for, you know, if they feel constrained by, you know, the four walls, or whether they feel like they have that ability to, you know, stretch and be the best thing that they can be, and they're doing what they really love. So for me, yes, we do lots of branding initiatives. Yes, we, you know, recruit, and we do, you know, co-op events and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I would say all of our employees, including myself, are always on the lookout for the next Unflick team member. And so we are prepared as a company that when we meet someone, even if we don't have a job posting available today for that individual, you know, if we can bring them on board today, we will, because we don't want to lose that opportunity. At the same time, if it's a matter of just keeping in touch with that person for when they're ready to make a change, that's what we do as well. So for us, it's really informal, and I would say very few of our hires come through recruiting events and job postings.
All right. Any other comments? Oh, question over here. Yep.
Hello. Mick from FreshBooks. I have a question for Ali. What do you look for in an HR team, person, whatever?
What do I look for in an HR team? I'd still be interested to hear what the others have to say about that. But at Well.ca right now, the HR manager is the person who sits directly next to me in the office. So it's the person who's working physically and geographically closest to me. And so what I'm looking for in HR is definitely, I mean, there's two parts to HR. There's the organizational office management part of it, of just like make sure you keep the files in the right place and make sure you're much more organized than you should be and have that kind of OCD tendency, because those are valuable in an HR, in the kind of the bookkeeping aspect of HR. But that's not the exciting part. Hopefully they can do that. And then there's the whole representing the brand, representing the excitement that this company represents, keeping people energized and organizing events. That kind of that kind of energy that you see that exudes from people who are passionate about what they do and motivating other people and being part of a team. And so you're looking for, can they handle the office part of it, the management part of it, and then excel at the event planning, excitement, motivational aspect of it.
Great. Any other questions? So you have another one?
I'll keep going. So you guys talked about engagement earlier, and I appreciated the answers very much. But what I heard in the answers was things like fun, primarily. And to me, that's that's not necessarily what engagement is about. If you have happy staff, you get happy customers, you get a good business result. So I'm really interested in, sure, fun is a way to keep people happy in social events and so on, but it's a far more complicated topic, and I'd kind of like to get to the next level of depth on that from any of you. Thank you.
Sure. So I think for us, it's reminding people, like when we were talking, it's more like it's reminding people that they're not just here for the job that they do every single day. They're here because, you know, you spend a ton of time with these people, and it's important to love the people that you work with and love where you work. I think a key piece of engagement, you know, is not just how much can you pay people, but why people work where they do is because they love what they do. They love the projects they work on. They love the product that they support. They love the founders. They love the owners. They're just so passionate about every aspect of the company that they work for and their role, that's what keeps them engaged. So I think, you know, there's not a really clear, you know, answer in terms of that specific thing makes people engage, but I'd say it's a whole package, you know, making sure that people are comfortable when they work. You know, people sit in a chair that's terrible. Well, you know, the company should invest the $400 in a nice chair because that person has to sit in it for 8 to 10 hours a day. And so the company might be thinking, well, that's a really big expense for 30 employees. Well, at the end of the day, those people are making your product. So things like that can change levels of engagement. You know, people feeling that they're compensated properly changes your levels of engagement. People feeling that they have enough feedback and knowing what they're doing well, what they're not doing well, changes how engaged they are. And as the company grows and as, you know, the culture changes and those sorts of things, or you move to new offices, or you know, a team lead leaves and you bring on a new team lead, those are all things that impact engagement. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have anything else to add, but I think, you know, for our employees, it's the whole package.
Well, and I've heard from companies that they're not looking in a startup for someone who wants to work 9 to 5. And that's usually the equation. It's like, I don't want someone who's a 9 to 5, or I want someone who's engaged. So if that's the equation, does that scare off people who want to have a life too?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say sometimes. But I think it's really important to paint a really clear picture. So making sure that you tell people, yeah, there's going to be times where we're going to need you to pull, you know, some extra time, and that's what we're all about. We're all about, you know, but you'll never be the only person here working until 8 o'clock tonight or 9 o'clock tonight or until 3 in the morning to get this product released. That we're never going to leave you on your own. But at the end of the day, you've painted that picture accurately, and at the same time, you're respectful enough of those people's time. So you know what, if they had to work until, you know, 10 at night, 3 in the morning, whatever the case may be, you know, the next day or the day after, you say, hey, you know what, take the day off, right? Don't dock their vacation for it. Just let them take the day off, right? Let them sleep in. Don't worry about coming in by our core hours. So I think it's a give and a take, really. But when we interview people and we talk with people about joining Enflick, it's not about people who work for Enflick don't say, I want a 9 to 5 job. It's not that that's not what they're looking for, but they're not looking at the clock at, you know, 4:55 and start packing up because, oh, it's almost time for me to go. Because really they finish whatever they're doing and that's when they go home. At the same time, if they want to take a 2-hour lunch, that's fine too. So I think it's important to set the expectations up front of who you are, and what kind of flexibility you have and what expectations you have for them, but what they can also expect from you in terms of a give and a take.
Ali?
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about employee engagement, FreshBooks, where Mick, who's the person who asked the questions, FreshBooks is probably it's like one of the best and most engaged workplaces in Canada. And they're thought leaders in that space. So definitely pull Mick aside and ask her this question back to her, because I think she's asking it because she knows a lot about it. I think a friend of mine worked at a company in Toronto, and they used to serve breakfast in the morning, dinner, and not lunch actually. And I came to join. He said, "Come join me for breakfast." And I got there at 8:05, and they purposely cleared off the table so that you couldn't get bagels at 8:05. You had to get there early to get the bagels, and then they would always serve dinner right at 6:30. And what they're hoping is, in people's heads, they're like, I'll come half an hour early to work so I get a free breakfast, and okay, you know what, it's 5:30, I might as well stay an extra hour and then I'll get the free dinner. It's, you know, they're doing this cost benefit analysis. But the fundamental flaw in that that kind of process is that someone sat with the spreadsheet and said, it's mathematically optimal for us to serve dinner and breakfast at these times because we're going to extract more work out of the staff. And the problem with that is it starts with a fundamental assumption that's wrong, and that the assumption is that people naturally don't want to be engaged. People naturally aren't passionate and don't want to work extra hours to finish the thing they're working on. We're not a workplace where we work more than 9 to 5. We're very much a 9 to 5, kind of 10 to 6 kind of workplace. People go home at the end of the day. But we believe that people want to do a great job. They want to work hard. They want to be passionate about what they're doing and really change things. And so then the whole conversation becomes about how do you remove the barriers? How do you find all the things that workplaces have done to people to make them not want to do well, not want to spend over their budget? Because people naturally don't want to waste the company's money. People want to make a difference and impress their customers and the staff. Our customer service agents want to be nice to people and want to tell the truth when there's a problem and say, I'm sorry, we made a mistake. But processes remove people's ability to be their natural, great, passionate, kind selves. So I think my answer to the question is that you have to start with the assumption that people are naturally good, passionate, hard workers that are engaged, and then figure out what are the things that you're doing to make them not be that, right? Yeah.
Good. Natalie, anything to add?
No, that was a great answer. Loved it.
Good. Full stop. Are there any other questions? Penny?
Hi there. My name's Penny, and I work at FreshBooks with Mick as well. My question, you talked about it before, hiring based on values. So I'm curious, in your opinion, who comes up with these values? How do they change as the company grows and you hire more people? And kind of where to go from there?
Natalie?
I feel like you're both looking at me because I'm in the middle every time.
Natalie didn't have a turn last time, so I can start off.
The values, I believe, are established, well, in my case, were coming from the founders. They had an idea and an ideal of what they wanted for their organization, and then the people that they brought in early on helped to foster those ideals as well. And they've kind of stuck. But it's actually interesting because right now I'm looking at the values that we have right now at MyoVision and the MyoWays, and I'm actually going to get feedback from our employees to find out if they truly do believe in it. Because now we're sitting around 75 employees compared to when they started around, I believe when they were around five of them, and they developed the MyoWay. That if people actually do believe in this, do they breathe it? Do they exercise it every day when they're doing their job? Are they able to apply it to outside life? So I'm actually going to try and figure out what is the values and norms held by our employees right now, and see if we can develop it even further. So I want their feedback because I want their buy-in.
And we just launched values at Unflick. So what we did was one of the founders and I sort of hashed it out, sort of what do we think, sort of all the things that we think are important for someone who works at Unflick. So we came up with like a laundry list of things that were like, oh my God, all these things are important. But what we realized is they fell into buckets that were really important. So we ended up with 7 buckets. And so we have words that then are supported by a couple bullets to say this is what this really means. From there, we went to the other co-founder and CEO and our CFO and said, hey, we've been working on this, as you know, what do you think? And so we got their feedback in, and they're like, yeah, we really like that. What about changing this bucket to that? Then we launched it to the team leads and said, hey, we're doing this and we want your feedback. And so the team leads would say, hey, yeah, I think you should change that bucket, or a sub point that we should have in there is X. And then from there we had the team leads, which we thought was really important, push it to the employees on their team and say, hey, we're launching these core values. This is what we've come up with so far, and here's how it's changed over time. And now we're at this version. What do you think? Are there values here that you think are really important to be an Unflick employee that aren't represented here? Should we add something? Should we change something? Do you think there's something on here that no Unflick employee is this, so therefore remove it? So we thought it was really important to go through a similar process where it started with the founders, moved down to the team leads, and then went to the employees and said, what do you think? And we've had changes, and we did the same thing with our vision and our mission statements and saying, does this make sense to you? Does this align with what you believe? And it was interesting because through that process you actually realized maybe we fell short in communicating some of these values, or maybe where we needed to do a little bit more work. So even if we're not there yet, this is where we want to get to.
Anything to add, Ali?
I think the short answer is your values don't change. The way that you express them changes with respect to the size of the company and the changing dynamic and that sort of thing. But hopefully you build a set of values that will never change. Right?
Excellent. Oh, we got a question at the back.
Hi there. My name's Addy. I'm from BufferBox. Fairly small company, only 3 or 4 people. The assumption that we went in hiring our first person was hire the person, not the skill. But in a startup, like you mentioned, getting them up to speed is very difficult. So what's the balance that you've kind of struck of the person versus the skill?
I definitely think they need to have the skill set there to some degree. They need to be able to do the job. But the right attitude and the right fit for your organization is definitely probably the right way to go, and then you can get them trained up. So I think you guys probably did it the right way, and hopefully they have the technical skill set to keep going and keep swimming. But I think you guys did the right way.
Any other comments? No? Any other questions from...
Hi, I'm Yazan. I'm the founder of Right Servers. I got a question. At the beginning stages, when you're strapped for cash, how do you find the balance between how much you pay them and how much equity you give out?
Ali?
There's equity and then there's options. And I'd make the distinction because I think if you're hiring initial founders or founding employees, you need to think about equity. You need to think about ownership. You need to say, neither of us are going to pay each other very much, but we're going to own half this company. That sort of discussion, that's different. That's when you're building the initial, like the founding team of your company. That's when you don't have any money. As you begin to hire employees, you can't pay them as well, but you promise them this notion of options. And everyone has different philosophies there. I think that you don't hear a lot of stories about people making options and then making a fortune of them. It's very rare to make a lot of money from options. And you know what? It's really hard to explain the value of options. They will get diluted with future rounds of investment. They're usually the lowest level of shares. And so I'm personally not of the category of people who says, let's not pay these people as much, but we'll make it up in options, and we'll try to explain them the value of that. And then somehow there'll be some mathematical formula in their head where they're like, I'll take half the salary, but I'll become a millionaire because I have early options. It's not a realistic promise to make. So this conversation we usually have at our company about options is, we want you to be an owner in this company because everybody in the beginning stages of this company should feel ownership. So if this company does well, we'll all do well. But I want you to evaluate this job based on the base compensation, and don't count the options as part of the salary. And then so the second part of the question is, how many options do you give out in that circumstance? Because if it's a founding team, you should be splitting the company as equally as possible. But if it's initial employees that you're giving options to, you should follow. My advice is to follow rules of thumb. So there are tables that you can follow that say a VP makes between this and this at this stage of the company. A senior engineer makes between this and this. And if you need that table, send me an email and I'll give you a link to a table like that. You should follow rules of thumb because there's no way to actually determine the value of those options.
Any other questions from the crowd? Oh, over here.
That actually brings up a question. Where do you find salary brackets, tables for our industry, our location, that kind of thing?
I think Natalie knows the best. Did you ever have to do that at the VC firm?
What a compensation. Yeah, we did do a compensation analysis and review this year. So what we did was we built off information that we had in the past. We took some market value data that we were able to pull from free websites because that's where the employees are seeing it as well. So we pulled that information, and then we also got some great information from Communitech and used that in our salary information, and then kind of based on the employees' seniority level, years of experience prior to joining MyoVision, we kind of put them in a bracket and put them in a MyoVision bracket to try to remain as competitive as possible. So basically we just pulled a bunch of data from the market and compiled it into our own version of a compensation evaluation just because we couldn't afford a salary survey because they are quite expensive right now. So we just pulled from free information that we could.
And not only are they expensive, but it's really hard to find them that are representative of Waterloo region. So a lot of what you find in other markets, and then you have to make an adjustment based on location. So we're currently going through building a compensation system ourselves. There's a couple free websites that you can use. Like I know Red Canary does post some salary data. There's a site called PayScale. There's a Monster Salary Center. And then through Communitech, we have access to, I'm going to forget the name of it, Tech Edge, right? All right. I'm drowning in seas of data at work. So Tech Edge is the one that is through Communitech, and that is focused on technology companies in Waterloo region. So we've used that as well. And for us, it's compiling all that data in terms of those sites, because again, purchasing one is very expensive and not readily available. And again, because that's what your employees are seeing, and then picking your percentile to where you're competitive. So are you competitive on the 10th percentile, the 90th percentile, or the 50th percentile? And from there, you'll build your salary ranges for what makes sense for your company.
Good. I think I'm going to hand things over to Jacqueline.
Hopefully we won't get feedback. Hello everyone, my name's Jacqueline and I'm the marketing officer at TribeHR. This is us wrapping up the workshop, but I wanted to thank everyone for their participation and for showing up. We hope that you found this workshop to be very useful as well as inspiring. And I just wanted to mention something that we believe at TribeHR. We believe strongly in collaboration, and that's part of the reason why we started this workshop. Our goal is to help businesses like yours create a culture of success. So if anyone wants more information on TribeHR, you can definitely go on our website and sign up for a free trial. I also want to send a big thanks out to Communitech, Christina, all of our sponsors, and our amazing expert panelists. You guys did an amazing job, so thank you very much. Don't feel like you have to get up and leave right away. Please feel free to network with one another. You'll probably get a chance to speak to some of our panelists as well. And keep an eye out for us in your inbox. We'll be sending out the recorded workshop from today, as well as our business card drop box. So if you miss that, you can always drop off your business card, and we will put everyone on a list and send it out to everyone. Thanks so much, guys.